Hello. Architect Neilesh Kenkare, Principal Architect, Arch8 Mumbai, and Architect graduate from Sir J.J. College of Architecture. Architect Kenkare has over 24 years of experience. His other identity is @Papa Cooks, where he blogs about his latest creations, a hobby he developed during lockdown. Welcome. Next, we have architect Babu Cherian, Principal Architect, BCA Architecture. He's a passionate chef and actively posts his latest dishes on his Instagram. Welcome to Mr. Cherian. Architect Jashan Sippy, founder Sugar and Space, is an IGBC certified architect specialized in the design for spaces of food. Today, he dons the role of a founder for his creative agency, Sugar and Space, editor for FD Zine, Art, Culture and Design for Sustainable Food Systems, and co-founder of Barcelona-based Food Design Nation. Welcome. Also, we have architect Abhishek Rustagi, co-founder, Design by Meta, an accomplished architect and interior designer. In addition to the accolades, he has been successful in creating a new brand image for several top-end brands in the Indian market. Welcome to you, sir. Next, we should invite architect Manu Goel, director Novarch Architects, an agri-architecture enthusiast. She has turned her rooftop into an urban farm. The moderator for the session is architect Anshul Chodha, Principal Architect, Sanctuary Architects and Designer. Over to the moderator, Mr. Anshul. Thank you.
Good evening, and nice to connect with you all. I think this is probably the first time I'm meeting most of you all, and it's exciting to connect on something other than just architecture and interior design. I've been asked to keep this really light and breezy, so I can promise you I will try, and let's make an effort to keep it that way as well. So I'm here because I'm getting a call. That's not why I'm here, but I needed to put this on flight mode. But anyway, so I'm here because other than being an architect and designer, as like most of y'all, my mother started a restaurant 48 years back, probably one of the first women entrepreneurs, maybe in Bangalore, maybe even the country. And I helped her relaunch her restaurant about 2 years back, 1.5 years back. That was our COVID project. And after 46 years of being in the business and saying, I'm done, I said, okay, you know what? I want to keep this legacy alive. And that's probably why I am here today with you all. So you can call me a restaurateur, but I'm piggybacking on my mother, right? But I do have food in my genes. I was a 1-year-old child when my mother started this restaurant, which is a bit of a legacy in Bangalore. So it's nice to sort of now take that forward and then connect to various other professionals on this front. So how about we sort of keep this very informal? If you all can take about 30 to 45 seconds to a minute to tell us about the most fun part of each of your journeys, and then we'll get some brew started in that sort of format, and then take it forward from there. So how about we get started with anyone in no particular order? But yes, since it's about the women, maybe we can start with the lady.
So moving on to a light-hearted chat, I'll just share a little about what is my connection with food. So most of the people who know me also know that I'm a very passionate urban farmer. So it started with, growing a little something about 7-8 years back on an experimental basis. But I think it's my childhood upbringing from Dehradun, where I was growing up on a farm, literally. And I think those kind of learnings never go back. That I realized how powerful it is to be actually growing your food staying in a city like Delhi. And so I was doing a rooftop garden, which was all edible greens. And I also promote edible greens in my projects, as well as which are not my projects. I also promote. I try and get most people converted by saying, कि एक पालक का एक छोटा सा गमला उगा लो, and then you'll never go back to the vegetables which are in the market. But having said that, I did realize that that's not enough to take care of your entire food plate that you have, which may be having chemical or which may not really be in sync with the seasons and all of those things. So it's one is about eating healthy food. The other is about having that learning of being in season with what is right now growing, what is off season, what is coming from where. So you get in sync with the food chain, which I think most of you would also be if you are connected with food in some way or the other. So that's kind of my, sort of. So 2 years back, my COVID project was, I've started a small half-an-acre farm on the Greater Noida Expressway. And I'm happy to say I'm doing even dals and chana and, so that kind of stuff also, all for my own consumption. So it's sustenance farming, but I think I've been able to get quite a few people to be initiated, if not converted. And that's kind of my connect with food. And then I'd like to hear from everyone and then we'll go about. Thank you.
Lovely, lovely.
So, my connection with the food is not that inspiring as yours is. I mean, mine is a very simple one. So, my biggest critique for the food, and the first critique for the food was my dog, actually. So, I actually cooked for my dog, and no, he liked it actually. So, he actually liked it. I mean, it was not so bad. I mean, so then I got a complaint from my partner, Nomita, and she's also an architect, and she complained that you only cook for dogs. Why don't you cook for humans? I said, at least dogs don't complain about the food. I mean, humans can complain about it. So then I started cooking for humans also, and luckily or unluckily, I think they liked it a little bit better than I thought so they're going to like it. So when I was working as an architect, I was looking for a easy way out. I thought that food going to be an easy way out. But my problem was, in both cases, clients wanted a 20-minute delivery, being it design work or be it the food work. So I am managing both. I'm trying my best to manage both. And I hope I continue to manage both. I mean, not as technical as the rest of the panelists are, but I'm sure one day I'll be able to cook for you guys too. And you can order online, or you're always welcome to the studio, as all my clients and vendors come and eat and enjoy food. So I hope one day. See you soon, guys.
So as a larger part of that discussion, I am going to ask each of y'all as if architecture was not bad enough, now you want to do food. Client se lat aur khani hai. But okay, let's go further.
So I think one of the best parts of working with food and design is the fact that you get to eat your projects by the end of it. So that for me started at the Academy of Architecture when I did my dissertation on gastronomy and architecture as multi-sensory experiences. So what I really found while we studied architecture was we tried to focus on it primarily as visual, right? We keep saying it's not visual, but all the media or the formats that we're taught in and have to present in is all visual. And architecture for me and for all of us is not just vision, right? And similarly, food is not just taste. As a consumer, you use all your senses to sort of have this holistic perception of it. So that's how I started practicing it. And now I call myself not only an architect, but a food designer. With that comes a lot of misconception. But I think with my final project, and Mr. Pitkar is here in the audience, it's so exciting to be talking about food design in the Indian context in India, because 8 years ago when I started working with food and design, when I did my final project, the entire model was made out of pastry and cake. And the jurors tasted their way through the architecture. I didn't have any cardboard and plastic model. And it was great because at the end of it, I didn't have to take a model back home to store for years because all my friends and colleagues ended up eating it. But that sort of made me realize that if we start using food as a material in design, we can start really reconsidering sustainability, circular economy, all of the carbon footprint aspects. And now my work sort of extends with using a 3D food printer, so we apply architectural, technical knowledge with edible materials and are able to sort of host different experiences, etc. So that's it for me.
At least you put your money where your mouth is.
Good evening, all. What an interesting topic to talk about, food. And you throw in design, the word design, and we architects come in. I don't have much story to talk about. It's not there in my DNA. I know it's not hardwired on food either. I'm not a food blogger. I don't sell gourmet food. I'm not a restaurateur. It just randomly happened to me one fine morning. I would rather say during isolation at lockdown, I wanted lentil fritters, which I'm very favorite on. We call it Parpu Vada in Kerala. And my wife said, Babu, why don't you try it off? And then that's when it all started off. And it started off with lentil fritters, and then I made around 150 dishes, and then I came out with a book. That's my small journey about what food is to me. Thank you.
I think we all became chefs during lockdown. I mean, that was, I think, common with everyone. For the first time, I came to know that Feta Hua coffee is called as Dalgona coffee. So that was a craze. Anyways, so hi, this is Neilesh Kenkare, architect. Though I'm not a restaurateur or I'm not into a food business as such, but my thing with food started as in like I was always been foodie. I can eat anything, anything that anyone eats all over the world, whether it's cooked raw or whatever. And I always say कि कोई खाता है मतलब कुछ तो अच्छा होगा. So I have no inhibition about any kind of food. I'm pretty adventurous. So eventually that led to, kind of taking interest. And moreover, it started with my wife. When she delivered, I mean, we got a baby daughter. And I wanted to spend maximum time with her, and I wanted to see her growing up. So instead of, because my parents were not there, so instead of sending her to in-laws' place, I kind of took like a paternity leave, and I was practically there, I mean, I was right even in the operation theater when she delivered. And I've been there for 6 months. And that's the time actually I took cooking from hobby to moreover, kind of a necessity, and started cooking. And for me, since it wasn't a necessity, it was more of, being a foodie. So I started experimenting. Those days there was no YouTube, no, these internets to help you. So maybe I started with Tarla Dalal and kind of people, reading books, and wanted to make something totally out of the way, which not commonly, cooked at home. And that's how it started. And now, since my wife is vegetarian and I'm hardcore non-vegetarian, and so is my daughter. So I started cooking up non-veg for her. And it was the best time for me when she said the favorite restaurant where, we used to order our food from. She says, no, you make it better than that restaurant, So that was also in lockdown, like Babu said, since we were used to working for 22 hours, 21 hours a day, and suddenly there was nothing to do. So, I was just cooking. Like morning, getting up, going for shopping, food actually. And the whole day I was cooking breakfast, lunch, dinner just to keep busy. So someone just suggested, why don't you write a blog? And then I started with the name, because I do it all the time for my daughter, of course for wife as well. But the name of the blog is Papa Cooks. And that's how I used to put it on the Facebook. Papa Cooks Fish, Papa Cooks this. And I have all international recipes, including Indian. And the best thing is there are followers from all over the world. And there are women from Thailand asking me about Thai recipes and things like that. So it's a great feeling. Though it's not a profession for me, it's more of a passion. So the tagline of my blog is architect by profession and chef by passion.
Nice. So what I'd like to ask y'all is that, is food complementary to your profession? or is it supplementary to your profession, or is it something that gives your profession a boost, or is it something that also sort of is a bit of everything? Right? That would be interesting to know, because I know a lot of architects who've started doing alternate things. In certain cases, it's just the economics of it that works out better. In certain other cases, I think as architects, we're a lot more adventurous, we're a lot more creative. And I have a sort of a streak in me that's like that, where other than what is not mundane actually in terms of work, where I'm creating every day, I just want to do 100 other things. So I would love to know what it is in each of your cases.
I think straight away that comes to my mind is more than being it complementary or supplementary, it is required for our survival. So I think it's a soul, and I think it's the most important thing for our survival. So I think without food, we do not exist. But when we relate it with food and design, I would rather say that it's all about sustenance. It's all about sustainability, you know, both food and shelter. Without both of these, the whole existence on this planet Earth is rather impossible. So you can say it's complementary, you say it's supplementary, but ideally I would rather say it is the most important thing for our survival. That's my take on it.
It's primary.
For me, I think it drives the profession, at least because I practiced as an architect and worked on spaces of food for 5 years, and that's how I sort of filled that desire of wanting to work with food by working with spaces of food. So till today, if I tell people that I'm a food designer and they come from the architecture fraternity, they sort of ask, oh, so you design restaurants, right? And that's where it goes. And if you talk to someone in hospitality, they say, so you work with plating, right? And no, like it's so much more, because I think when Manu started talking about this aspect of growing food and being in control of this basic sustenance, you never look back. And I think with food now, when you're talking about the entire system, and especially with COVID, when, you know, we had shortages in supply chains, you started seeing gaps in the system, people running to supermarkets and hoarding stuff. All of that, I think, starts making us realize that this is a basic need. There are big, big problems in the entire system. And through these sort of collaborative, critical, design-oriented approaches, can we hope to, I think, solve those sort of challenges. So for me, it drives it.
For me, food and design are actually two very similar things to, as an approach, because they both are very intuitive and very innovative field, processes actually, I would say, because both of them requires a lot of dedication and hard work. But actually it helps me a lot when I have to find an excuse not to work on my projects. I can tell my clients that I'm busy in a meeting or I'm busy delivering something which they don't know what I'm delivering, and I hope none of my clients are here to understand what I'm trying to say. And when I say now, next time, I hope they're not going to question whether I'm cooking or whether I'm designing in the next stage. So my concern is that I hope none of my clients are here. But, I mean, both design and food comes from the heart. I mean, so you actually have to be involved in each and everything at every stage, be it in the food, the procurement or cooking process or the presentation in the end. And similarly with the design, I mean, you have to be involved from the concept to the design development to the final execution. So for me, both actually run very similar and a parallel path. Yet, on a funny note, I mean, as I said, that it helps me get away from the seriousness of the work, and it gives me a break from all the headache that all the clients give me all the time. I mean.
You must have very understanding clients for them to say, "Oh, tu khana kha raha hai? Koi baat nahi, tu
No, I don't.
10 din khana khate ja."
No, I don't tell them that I'm cooking actually. I always tell them that I'm working on something.
Yeah.
So what I'm working on is only for me to know what I'm working on, not for each and everybody, because I can't tell my food clients that I'm working on a design, or neither I can tell my design clients that I'm working on a food. I mean, so, and I can't mix and match because otherwise I'll have a building which is look like a cake or a pastry. I mean,
And what do you end up telling your food client when you're with your architecture client?
I tell my food clients when I'm doing the architecture work that actually it's a very slow process when you cook a food. I mean, so it takes a little bit of more time. I mean.
हाँ, मैं तो ताजमहल बना रहा हूँ मुझे थोड़ा टाइम दे दे
No, for the gourmet
10
food,
दिन
you
के बाद
actually,
आपको
no,
खाना
you actually have to have, I mean, a lot of investment or time when you're doing a gourmet food. I mean, and my specialty has been gourmet food, and unfortunately, I can't cook a normal dal chawal ever. And luckily or unluckily, my wife is not as good a cook as I am. So I actually take the credit for cooking the better food when I'm doing it at house.
She's not around, right?
She's right there.
Oh, you're lucky. Okay.
No, I do tell her every time. I mean, so I mean, in the house we can actually have a better cook or a better designer. So she's a better designer and I'm a better cook.
I'll get whacked if I said the same thing.
So long as you can cook, she
if
wouldn't
I went
mind.
home. Does she agree? Does your wife agree with you?
She's smiling, so I guess she's agreeing. But I think she can't even complain because I'll be cooking at home. So she can't say that you won't get food at home.
Let's hear from her. Do you agree? To some extent.
Yeah, she's saying she agreed to disagree. I mean, she's agreeing with me, but disagreeing with you. I mean, so.
Perfect answer. How about you, Manu?
Hello? Yeah, it's working. Thank you. So I think as architects, don't we all bring a lot of our own personalities, our sensibilities, our preferences to our work? I think that's what makes our work so unique and so different. So I'm sure if somebody is working with food as a designer, I've seen beautiful, I don't know what work you do, but I've seen these beautiful models of, very architectural, very cubist kind of stuff that they do with cakes and bakery stuff and pastries. I don't know if you do that, but I mean, I'm sure if somebody is doing that, they'll bring that sensibility into the design that they do. I can talk about myself. I think growing food has definitely brought another layer to my work because like I mentioned, it's been about 7-8 years that I've properly started, kind of being engrossed into this. And I think it just kind of makes you more grounded and more attached to the roots in terms of seasons, in terms of course, we design climate sensitive, right? But now I also design nature sensitive, plant sensitive. You design spaces for birds to come and make homes. You know that certain birds make their nests when certain plants are around because they pull out those fibers from there. Stuff like that. And I think also, especially though I don't do many residences, I do largely commercial projects. But even in large commercial projects, I'm happy to say that I am a lot of times able to persuade the client to, factory ki rooftop tak pe maine sabziyan ugwai hain. To matlab, really, and the clients do appreciate. So that is also there. And then of course, if you're growing in the building, so then you're literally hunting for spaces, being a designer based in a city. Sometimes you have a smaller plot, sometimes you may have, so you work with the sun. And vegetables need sun, largely, most of them do. Very few of them grow without. Waterproofing, designing with the sun, where the taller one should be, companion plantation, all those kind of things are those kind of, other layers of learning that are there with you. So, yeah, a little bit of that does come into your work.
So do you go vertical in terms of your
Definitely, there
vegetation
are various ways of doing. So there are these plumbing pipes that you can cut and you can make holes and you can grow vertical. If you're doing on a rooftop, you can create levels such that they are not shading each other and you're able to maximize. You're able to use all horizontal surfaces, whether they are chajjas or mumties or whatever other spaces that you have. Several such things you were able to.
So for me, I don't know, as in like for me, both are my passion. So for me, cooking is more like a meditation, something that I do from my heart, something that I enjoy as much as designing. We have done over some 50, 60 hospitality places, including restaurants, nightclubs and all. But for me, food is, as on today, it's not a business, it's more of a passion. And I mean, I'm very finicky and I'm very touchy and I want it like particularly the way I want. So when I cook, I wouldn't even let my maid cutting and chop for me. I want it to be cut in a particular fashion. I want it to be, if it's parboiled, the texture has to be retained, color has to be retained. Even when you fry certain fish or whatever, the temperature of your frying pan or whatever. So I think being an architect, it kind of helps us in understanding the detailing because normally architects are said to have good eye for detailing. So it's not just the food and the taste, but also the texture. The kind of getting the right texture. Also, when you serve, I mean, I would always serve with, red color with like sliced tomatoes and some salad and, it's a rights of color in the plate. So food, something which is not just tasty, but it should look good, it should please your eyes. And since, as I told you, I do it out of a passion, so it's more of like, experimenting and every time going out, getting new things and trying your hands at new recipes and things like that. So for me, as I said, it's as much passion as a design. And design definitely helps because being an architect, we are too much this thing about textures, colors, and so many other things. So I think they kind of help each other.
Out of all of y'all, how many of y'all are hands-on with what y'all are doing and how many of y'all are doing it as something that y'all can scale up? You're looking at your hands-on. Okay. Everyone here, I'm guessing, is pretty much hands-on. Okay. So it's not necessarily a business that is meant to scale up, or it is as well. It is as well. Okay. That's interesting. So the first thing that a VC told me when I approached him to understand how these business scale-ups work, they said, you decide whether you want to dirty your hands or whether you want to sit back and watch and watch everything happen and then sort of orchestrate it, right? So the interesting thing is that you know that this is an oxymoron, right? The more you sort of get involved, the lesser you can scale up. I was interested in knowing if there was anybody looking to scale up and how you would manage in spite of the fact that you're so hands-on.
I'd love to, before answering that question, just make a comment on what you said. Because I feel like, well, either as an architect or a food designer or whatever profession it is, I don't think without having got your hands dirty and got into it, would you understand what it takes to execute it, to then be able to sit back to sort of watch it scale up. So I do think it's important to have gone into it, got your hands dirty, of course, and then the art of delegation comes in and follow the 80-20 rule and let things sort of happen as well.
Cool. Absolutely. Well said, yeah.
Similarly, I mean, I feel one has to be involved in each and every stage, as I mentioned earlier. Otherwise, you will not be able to understand what it takes to take it to the next level. You have to be involved at every given point of time, whether it's design or whether it's food, because, I mean, as simply or in a layman's term, I would say that you can't build a building without getting involved with the design and each and every smaller detail of the building. So, I mean, similarly, what you cook and what goes into cooking and all that, you have to be involved with that. You can't just stay at a distance and say that you will just watch it from a distance and you'll try and say that, oh, I want to scale it up, but I don't want to get my hands dirty. I mean, that's...
Absolutely.
I think as professionals, whenever we do our work, especially as an architect, when I started out my work, I never ever thought about scaling it up, you know. Always I enjoyed it. It is a passion. Of course, there's a commerce in it. We need to survive. We need to sustain ourselves with the money that comes from it. And the more passionate you get involved in your work, it slowly grows up, and then that's an organic process through which the scaling up happens. That's for me. That's what I believe. So you need to have your hands dirty in the first place. You need to really play in the muddle, and then slowly, as and when things become better, it automatically grows. So the organic part of it, which I'm talking about, As far as the food is concerned, I've been doing it as a hobby. I don't know whether I'll take it up as a profession as such and scale up. But as architecture, even when things go well and if things happens organically, I'm not against scaling up either.
I think getting your hands dirty is like for us, even in the practice in the architecture itself. So many times I go to the site and I see my workers not doing it correctly and I say, idhar de chal, main dikhata hu kaisa karne ka. So I mean, to date, our involvement is fullest even in like architecture and interiors and even food. Like as I told you, in spite of having maids and house helps, still I would like to cut and chop myself because there are, like as I said, these things are like things of being particular. Like Babu said, scaling up was never my objective. It's not to date. I mean, what we are doing once upon a time, not even dreamt of. So there's no limit to the growth. There's no limit to the scaling up. But as I said, for us, design is also passion. Cooking is also passion. So, I mean, I wouldn't like to stand at the back and, you know, give my baton to someone else. I would rather get down and get my hands dirty. I mean, for me, that's more like a passion in both the cases.
So I think it's for me, it's all about getting the hands dirty. I also, from my team, a lot of times I get youngsters to come and do just a soil mixing workshop and just to get them to get their hands dirty because I think ultimately जो आपका objective है from that activity, that is what matters. Personally for me, it's the value add that I have got by growing my own food. I don't think that any amount of money can actually give you that. You can scale up or that was never my objective of doing this work because I think it's not just about eating healthy food, but also there are so many of these finer things that you know, like for example, there's a whole science of eating weeds. I don't know if you're aware that there are several weeds and weeds have, because they are survivors, most of the weeds have some medicinal quality or the others जो बाजार में आपको मिलती ही नहीं है as a vegetable. Or for example, if you're growing something like a beetroot or you know like plants, for example a moringa, you'll end up, because you're growing it chemical free and with so much of love yourself, you would end up you know googling or finding out from your fellow gardeners and you're actually using flowers to cook or leaves to cook or even root to cook. So you end up looking at it more like a science, and I think that's where the architectural mindset comes into play, that you're always kind of looking at the science and the logic behind it, but at the same time, it's the value that it brings to your life that you're enjoying. That's what my personal experience has been, and I wouldn't trade it by, you know, making it commercial, or it's not about the opportunity, but I think it's the purpose with which you're doing it.
Never say never. Okay. Now, in terms of the challenge that some of you may face in terms of balancing the two professions as similar as they may be, how many minutes do we have? 2 minutes? Okay, that's all I'll take. So, yeah, one last question in terms of the balance. And if there's any other sort of humorous anecdotes you may want to add to in terms of making this a good way to sort of end this discussion, you're welcome to take the floor.
For me, the biggest advantage is my office is just 4 buildings down my residence. So, I mean, sometimes I just get out of my office, go home, quickly whip up a good lunch for my daughter and come back and start my work. So, I mean, maintaining a balance is very easy when your office and house is next door. And as I said, you can balance if you want to.
Anything for food?
Yeah, so I think, first of all, a wonderful topic because I think it brings to fore a very different side of, I loved knowing about you all that, you know, in your personal life, if you're able to take that time off and make your connect with food, just the way space is very personal, it's very experiential, I think food is also very experiential. So as architects, we all bring that part to food, whether it is cooking with the food or experimenting with the form of the food or the textures or the flavors of the food. So yeah, I think it's a very valid but less thought of connect that has been there. So I think it's nice that Wade has brought this offbeat topic.
Absolutely. It's as sensorial as spaces and as soulful as you want to make it. So yeah, the connect between food and design is so strong. It's extremely strong. It's primary. There's food and there's shelter. There's roti, there's kapda, there's makan. And those are the primaries. And that's how, I guess, food and design connect and will always connect. Yeah, last few words from any one of you to sort of cap this.
Some of us on the panel here are talking about architecture as profession and food as passion. I also think then, as a little anecdote to anyone else who wants to combine the two and follow their passion as their profession, I think it's important that we can remember that sort of our careers are a way for us to express ourselves, and irrespective of other people's perceptions. I was graduating, I did my thesis. People said, what is this? It's not architecture, you go become a chef. By the way, I did a pastry internship. I lasted only 1 day. So definitely couldn't do that.
That's crazily bold, by the way. That requires an applause. It really does.
One day, though. Not proud of it. So I do think
you should be.
Going sort of putting yourself out there can help you grow, and then you can start figuring out sort of new pathways to start merging different things together and hopefully be on a panel like this one day.
Lovely. Thank you so much. It was enriching. It was fun. And I guess this is just a start. But, okay, last few words? Last few words? Well,
No, as you said, those of who are interested or passionate about cooking, and you said about the balance between work and food. All I have to say is, like, a busiest person will have time for everything if you are in the pursuit of your passion.
And I think last but not the least, in an event which is meant for women architects and designers, women are talking about design and men are talking about cooking.
Ooh, that's a great observation, actually. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for being here. We can have one or two quick questions and then we'll close it off.
Yeah, there's something I would like to just add to this. At the cost of sounding dramatic, I am architect Neilesh Kenkare's wife. I'm Bhavya. And just want to say that earlier I used to think that, why is this man taking over my kitchen? Why is he doing this? I mean, as it is, we are, working together. There's lack of space between us as individuals. Why is he taking up? So it used to, kind of create a little unrest in me. But then very slowly I started seeing the joy that he was getting in doing it. So for me, I feel today, after so many years, I feel a man is not just a provider. He can be a nurturer too. And I have seen that in him. And lots of respect and love for that. Thank you.
I have to just say one thing. I am very happy because two of my students who I taught architecture are talking on food today.
You'll get a free meal from Neilesh if you make him happy. All right, thanks guys. Thanks for being here. Thank you to each one of you. Continue your passion, continue to feed it, and lots of love with the food, and hope I get to taste the food that you all make with all your hearts someday, because I would love to taste it. Thank you.